Hey everyone, welcome to Daily News Analysis for December 16. Let's look at the important news that are relevant for your CLAT and other entrance examinations, as well as any competitive examinations that has current affairs and general knowledge as the main paper. These are the news that are selected from mainstream newspapers, mostly the Hindu, and we'll read the news together. We'll point out what are the important news that are relevant for your competitive examinations, and we'll analyze the same. Let's begin. A second. Okay. The first news regarding Supreme Court. Public servants can be found guilty of graft on circumstantial proof, Supreme Court has said. Graft is corruption. The stink of corruption has a pervasive impact on the efficient administration and governance of the country. Large-scale corruption retards nation-building activities and everyone has to suffer on that count, observes the top court. So the Supreme Court has made observations regarding how harmful, how dangerous is the corruption, and the public servants, if they are involved in corruption, they can be found guilty also on the basis of circumstantial proof. So they have made it strict, the procedure has been made strict now. A constitution bench of the Supreme Court on Thursday held that the demand and acceptance of bribe or illegal gratification by a public servant can be inferred by a court on circumstantial proof in the absence of direct evidence. If any direct evidence is not available, so on the basis of circumstantial proof also, the person can be found guilty of taking the bribe or any gratification, any illegal gratification. The bench, led by Justice Abdul Nazir, said the stink of corruption has a pervasive impact on the efficient administration and governance of the country. Corrupt officials have a demoralizing effect on honest public servants. Corruption by public servants has become a gigantic problem. Large-scale corruption retards nation-building activities and everyone has to suffer on that count, the court observed. We hope and trust that complainants and prosecution make sincere effort to ensure that corrupt public servants are brought to book and convicted, so that the administration and governance becomes unpolluted and free from corruption. This was observation by Justice B.V. Nagarthana, who authored the judgment of the 5-judge bench appeal. See, and this news article starts with a constitution bench, and you should be aware that constitution bench is a 5-judge bench. So he authored the judgment, Justice B.V. Nagarthana. The other judges on the bench were Justice B.R. Gawai, A.S. Bopanna, V. Ramasubramaniam. The court, quoting from its preceding judgments on the Prevention of Corruption Act, said it is a sad but a bitter reality that corruption is corroding like cancerous lymph nodes, the vital veins of the body, politics, social fabric of efficiency in the public service, and demoralizing the honest officers. The bench was answering a reference on the question whether public servants could be convicted for corruption under Section 7, which is public servants taking gratification other than legal remuneration in respect of an official act, and 13(1)(d)(1), 1DI, and 2, that is criminal misconduct by a public servant in the absence of direct oral or documentary evidence due to unavailability of complainant owing to his death or for any other reasons. In the absence of the evidence of the complainant through direct, primarily oral, direct documentary evidence, it is permissible to draw a deduction of culpability or guilt of a public servant under Section 13, under Section 7, Section 13(1)(di), and 2, Section 13(1)(d)(1) and 2, read with Section 13 Clause 2 based on other evidence used by the prosecution, Justice Nagarthana observed. The prosecution can prove its case of corruption with the help of any other witness, oral or documentary evidence, or circumstantial evidence in cases in which the complainants have turned hostile. The trial would not abate or result in an acquittal. Justice Nagarthana said in a bribe given officers to pay illegal gratification. See, the corruption can happen two types. Either you take money directly or you involve in any gratification. That is, you do something that you might not be allowed to do otherwise, or you offer something that otherwise is not in the legal sphere of things. So all these cases are considered under the same umbrella, that is, and the rules have been made stricter now. Even the circumstantial proof is now considered as that it will the person will be found guilty on the for draft even on circumstantial proof. So these were some of the observations, some of the things that the judges observed, and it was a constitution bench which was authored by one judge, and the observation of the other judges has been mentioned, and the relevant sections are mentioned, that is section 7, section 13, section 13 1D1, 1D2. So that this is essentially the essence of this. So mere acceptance and receipt of the illegal gratification without anything more would not make it an offence under section 7(13) of the act. The court also said this, that mere acceptance and receipt of illegal gratification without anything more would not make it an offence. So both the offer by the bribe giver and the demand and acceptance of the illegal gratification have to be effectively proved by the prosecution as a fact. So these are the observations by Justice Nagarthana, and Justice Nagarthana, he interpreted that a court of law could use its discretion to make a presumption of fact of the offer made and bribe demanded or accepted by an accused official based on the material on record. So this is the news regarding how the illegal gratification and taking and receiving the bribe will now be taken care of, how it will be dealt with. That is essentially the essence of this piece of article. Then coming to the next news, High Court reserves judgment on pleas challenging Agnipath scheme. Now we discussed this in previous in one of the previous news as well some day back, that the Delhi High Court has reserved its judgment on a bunch of petitions challenging centre's Agnipath scheme for recruiting in the armed forces. If you remember in previous news when we were discussing, the High Court has asked that if the job profile is same, why the pay scale is different. So here a bench of Chief Justice Satish Chandra Sharma and Justice Subramaniam Prasad, they asked the parties in the case and the centre to submit their written submission by December 23. The High Court also reserved its judgment on the issue concerning the previous recruitment process of the armed forces that were stalled before the launch of the Agnipath scheme. The centre had argued that in June 2021, a decision was taken to put all the other recruitment schemes in the armed forces on hold as the Agnipath scheme was on the horizon. The Agnipath scheme was finalized in June this year when it was notified in the official gazette. So when the Agnipath scheme was launched, there were a lot of protests regarding this. Many people were not ready to accept this new change in the recruitment process, that how only for 4 years they will be recruited, only some of them will become in the regular cadre. So there were a lot of controversy regarding that, and now there have been several petitions in the courts, and here the High Court has, the Delhi High Court has reserved its judgment. Additional Solicitor General Aishwarya Bhati, representing the centre, said the Agnipath scheme is one of the biggest policy changes in defence recruitment that was going to mark a paradigm shift in the way the armed forces recruit personnel. Advocate Prashant Bhushan, appearing for some of the petitioners, said that some recruitment exercises were held till the beginning of this year. So the judgment has been reserved. Let's see how the court presents it and what comes out of it. Supreme Court to hear plea against poll bond scheme next month. See, the electoral bond, that poll bond scheme, this is a very important topic and it has been asked several times. In fact, this year CLAT 2023 paper had this question regarding the electoral bond in the legal reasoning section. One of the passages was regarding electoral bond. So let's see what the article is saying. The case, which has been pending since 2015, has a new petition challenging a government notification allowing the sale of electoral bond for an additional 15 days in assembly election. Exactly same passage, exactly same issue was discussed in CLAT 2023 paper. The Supreme Court on Thursday agreed to examine in January a plea to refer to a constitution bench petitions accusing the electoral bonds scheme of illegally facilitating anonymous donations to political parties days before polls are due. A bench led by Justice B.R. Gawai listed the case for the last week of January 2023. Advocate Prashant Bhushan, appearing for Petitioners NGO Association for Democratic Reforms, requested the court for an urgent hearing, saying the question of reference to a constitution bench could be heard and decided quickly at an early date. Justice Gawai said that the case has been pending since 2015. Mr. Bhushan said the petitioners had made several requests for an early hearing, but it has not been heard. The bench, however, pointed out that there were no elections due in the interim before the last week of January, even as the petitioners urged it to list the case for the first week of the new year. Mr. Bhushan submitted that there was now an election every 2 or 3 months. The case has a new petition which has challenged a recent government notification that has allowed the sale of electoral bonds for an additional 15 days in assembly elections. First of all, please understand what are electoral bonds. Electoral bonds, suppose you want to give some money to a political party. So you can donate this, you can give this in the form of electoral bonds that are issued by some identified branches of the State Bank of India. They are valid for a certain period, so after they are expired they cannot be used. So you can get those bonds issued and give it to the political party of your choice. So that is essentially the scheme, and it has always been in controversy ever since its launch, because some are saying that it's not transparent, some say that there are some other issues regarding that. So this petition is sought the quashing of the November 7 notification issued by the Finance Ministry amending the electoral bonds scheme. An additional period of 15 days shall be specified by the centre in the year of general elections to the legislative assemblies of the state and union territories with the legislature. Earlier, a 30-day extra period for sale was allowed only during Lok Sabha election year. In October, during a hearing in the case, the court had asked the government whether the electoral bonds scheme revealed the source of money pumped into fund political parties, even as the centre had repeatedly maintained that the scheme was absolutely transparent. So in October, during a hearing, the court had asked that whether we can find out the names of the person who are donating in these political parties, who are giving money to these political parties. So the centre has always said that yes, we are absolutely transparent, but whether the names are, we can find out the names or not, that has been asked in the October in the previous hearing. So that is now the Supreme Court will hear the plea against poll bond next month. Need a new appointment system to fill vacancies in higher judiciary, Kiran Rijiju has said. So who is Kiran Rijiju? Kiran Rijiju is the law minister. So the law minister said the government had returned 20 names to the collegium, but it had appointed 165 judges across various high courts, making it the highest for a calendar year. So we need a new appointment system. As you know that there is a certain way as per which the appointment of judges to the High Court and the Supreme Court happens. And some time back there was also a bill by the Parliament regarding the NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Committee, which was declared as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court later. So now the law minister is saying that we need a new system. The issue of vacancies and appointments in the higher judiciary will continue to arise until a new system is created. That is what the Kiran Rijiju has told the Rajya Sabha on Thursday. The law minister's comments made while giving answers to supplementaries during the question hour comes in the midst of an ongoing war of words between the government and the Supreme Court over the delay in appointments to the higher judiciary, because appointment in the higher judiciary, as you already know, that the cases take too long to get disposed from the judiciary, and if the seats are vacant, that adds on to the length of to the duration for which the case lingers in the court. So it is very important for that the seats, at least the vacancies, are timely filled. If the government would revive the National Judicial Appointment Commission Act, Mr. Rijiju said that several prominent jurists, retired judges, advocates and leaders of the political parties have opined that the striking down of the act by the Supreme Court was not correct. The issue of the NJAC Act, which sought to replace the current collegiate system, has also been raised by the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar twice over the past 15 days. So first of all, who is the Vice President? Jagdeep Dhankar. Please remember this trivia because they ask in the competitive examinations these kind of questions. So Vice President of India is Jagdeep Dhankar, and he has raised this issue regarding replacement of the current collegium system according to which the judges are appointed twice in the last 15 days. As on December 9, 777 judges are working in the High Court against the sanctioned strength of 1108, leaving a vacancy of 331 or 30% vacancy. So in the High Court there is a 30% vacancy that is not filled yet. To fill these vacancies, 147 proposals at various stages of discussion between the Supreme Court Collegium and the Union Government, while the names for another 184 vacancies are yet to be received by the collegiums of various high courts. In a written response, the minister said that while the government had returned 20 names back to the collegium, it has appointed 165 judges across various high courts, making it the highest for a calendar year. Mr. Rijiju said that the total number of cases pending in various courts is about to touch 5 crore. Please keep these figures in mind to have some reference. The total number of cases pending in various courts is about to touch 5 crore, adding that the impact of such huge pendency of court cases on the public is obvious. Currently, the government has limited power to fill the vacancies in courts. He said, adding that the center cannot look for names other than those recommended by the collegium. So only the collegium has to recommend, then only center can look for the names. So that is what causes the delay, and hence the request for any different system other than the collegial system that we presently had. The law minister said that somehow he felt that we are not working as per the spirit of the House and feelings of the people of the country. We are giving our full support to reduce pendency of cases, but questions will keep arising on vacancy of judges and appointments till we create a new system for appointments. So this is a very important piece of news, and it might in future something might come out of this discussions of these comments, and when the NJAC was proposed, when NJAC came as a bill and it was struck down by the Supreme Court, it was very important topic that was repeatedly asked in several competitive examinations. So this time also the discussion is hot regarding a new system for appointment of judges to reduce the pendency in the courts. Around 5 crore cases are pending. So that is something you should keep an eye on. States can enact laws on uniform civil code, Law Minister tells Rajya Sabha. Now, as you know that, first of all, what is uniform civil code? Under Article 44, we have under Article 44, it's one of the directive principles of state policy that the state shall endeavor to have uniform civil code. Just like we have a uniform criminal code, we should also have a uniform civil code. Criminal code is similar for everyone. If you are Hindu or you are Muslim, if you commit murder, you will be given same punishment. But in civil matters like marriage, divorce, succession, inheritance, it is different for different religions. So the state can implement Article 44. The state can enact laws on uniform civil code. That is what the law minister has told Rajya Sabha. The states are empowered to enact personal laws that decide issues such as succession, marriage and divorce in their endeavor to secure a uniform civil code, law minister has informed the Rajya Sabha. The minister made these remarks in a written reply to a question posed by Communist Party of India Marxist member John Britters, asking whether the centre was aware of the state formulating their own laws with respect to the uniform civil code. Article 44 of the Constitution provides that the state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. But please understand that Article 44 is a directive principle of state policy. It is not enforceable in a court of law. So it is just something that the state shall endeavor depending on the resources, depending on other factors, and even if it does not happen, you cannot go to the Supreme Court or the High Court to enforce that because it is non-justiciable, not enforceable. So Here, the issue of uh, right. So, what was that? Uttarakhand was the first to set up a panel to explore the possibility of a common civil code. The Gujarat government also announced its intention of doing so just ahead of its assembly elections. So please remember these two states, Uttarakhand and Gujarat. Uttarakhand was the first to set up a panel to explore the possibility of a common civil code, and Gujarat government also announced its intention that they might come up with a uniform civil code in their state. The party had made the implementation of the UCC as a part of Himachal Pradesh manifesto as well, although it lost the assembly election. Earlier this month, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan and a committee was constituted to implement the Uniform Civil Code. So different states are working on implementing Uniform Civil Code. Now how far, see, also you should know that Goa is one such state in India that has Uniform Civil Code. Goa has Uniform Civil Code. Similarly, now there are talks by the other states also to implement Uniform Civil Code, and that's what the Kiran Rijiju, the law minister, has said, that the states can enact laws on the Uniform Civil Code. Then we have the Kerala's University Laws Amendment Bills. What are Kerala's University Laws Amendment Bills? Just to have a look at it. Why is the Kerala government attempting to remove Governor Arif Muhammad Khan as the Chancellor of state universities? What are the arguments for and against such a move? We discussed this in one of the videos before, that the governor is being removed as the Chancellor of the state university. So what is this bill? Let's understand. The Kerala government has passed two university laws amendment bills in the state assembly to amend laws relating to the governance of state universities and to remove the governor Arif Muhammad Khan as the chancellor of said universities. So what does the bill say? The proposed legislation will amend statutes of 14 universities established by legislative acts in Kerala and remove the governor as the chancellor. The bills will give the government power to appoint eminent academicians as chancellors of various universities, thus ending the governor's watchdog role in university administration. The bill also provides provisions to limit the term of the appointment chancellor to 5 years. So first of all, it is preferred that the chancellor of the university is someone from academics, some eminent personality, some academician that is related to academics, instead of the governor being the watchdog of the regulations and rules of the university. Also, limiting the term of the appointed chancellor to 5 years. Every 5 years, the chancellor should change. So how did the bill come into being? Mr. Khan and the state government have been at loggerheads for months now. It reached a simmering point when the governor accused Kannur University VC, Professor Gopinath Ravindran, of plotting to endanger his life at the 2019 Indian History Congress. This took a turn for the worse when the governor denied assent to the controversial Lokayukt Amendment Bill and University Laws Amendment Bill passed earlier by the State Assembly. The fallout from this standoff between the governor and the governor led to Mr. Khan claiming that he has the power to dismiss ministers who criticize him. Mr. Khan went to the extent of suggesting the Chief Minister should take action against Finance Minister K.N. Balagopal, as he had ceased to enjoy my pleasure, governor's pleasure, because he does not, he holds office as at the pleasure of my pleasure, at my pleasure, and now he has ceased to enjoy that. So they should remove him. The worsening relationship between the state and Mr. Khan reached a tipping point with the Supreme Court order invalidating the Kerala Technological University VC's appointment. Following this judgment, the governor demanded the resignations of 11 other VCs, claiming that they were appointed through the same procedure that was invalidated by the Supreme Court. So what is the state government amendment university laws? The Minister of Law, P. Rajivi, while taking the bills, pointed out the UGC guidelines, which earlier used to be considered mandatory for central universities and partially mandatory and partially directive for state universities, had been made legally binding for all universities. by way of recent rulings by the Supreme Court. Worrying such precedents pointed towards a scenario in which the legislative powers of the Assembly on all subjects of the concurrent list could be undermined through a subordinate legislation or an executive order issued by the center. So what are the arguments against the bill? Please understand this also. The bill would give the state government more leeway in appointing its own nominee as VCs of state university. This would mean a transfer of power over university administration from the government and the UGC to the state government. While both the ruling front and the opposition seem united in stripping away the governor's chancellorship, the opposition fears that the state government would try to turn some universities into fiefdom, leading into the erosion of the autonomy universities enjoy. So the gist here is that the Kerala government has passed two university laws amendment bills in the state assembly to amend laws relating to the governance of state universities and to remove Governor Arif Muhammad Khan as the chancellor of state universities. The worsening relationship between Kerala government and Mr. Khan reached a tipping point when the latter demanded the resignation of 11 universities vice chancellors following a Supreme Court judgment, and the new bill gives the governor power to appoint eminent academicians and chancellors to various universities instead of governor being the watchdog of those. This was about this article. Now this is again an international news. The China builds ropeway roads near Tri Junction. So Beijing has been improving infrastructure and arranging additional deployments along the eastern sector of line of actual control. Officials say there is a lot of activity near Doklam that saw face-off in 2017. So in 2017 we had a face-off at Doklam, and again some activities being observed there. China has set up a ropeway near the Torsa Nala on its side of the Indian-Bhutan-China tri-junction and is strengthening roads and other infrastructure along the entire eastern region according to the defense sources. In the Yangtze area of the Tawang sector in Arunachal Pradesh, which saw a scuffle last week, defense official with knowledge of the area said China had stepped up patrols some years ago to assert its claim in the area after finding that the grazers could not move in and out. What risk is the People's Liberation Army? What is the People's Liberation Army? Is that the Indian Army holds the dominating heights, which gives a complete view of the bowl. So what is this Yangtze ingress points that the Chinese usually patrol 2 to 3 times a year before and after winter? One of the sources adding that there are 4 major ingress points in the Yangtze area which the PLA, what is PLA? People's Liberation Army, which the People's Liberation Army uses to enter the region. Yangtze is located 30 to 35 kilometers northeast of Tawang and is at an altitude of around 17,000 feet. The PLA has installed a ropeway close to the Torsa Nala on their side near the conference point, and some new anchor points of the ropeway have been recently observed, said one of the sources. Officials say that there is also a lot of activity near the Torsa Nala near Doklam, located that saw a 73-day standoff between Indian and Chinese forces in 2017. So since there are some activities that are going on, it's important to keep an eye on those places so that the similar situation does not arise again, and to avoid any conflict, or if at all there is any aggression from the other side, we should be in a position to handle that. India test fires Agni 5 ballistic missile having a range of 5,000 kilometers. So India has successfully test fired nuclear capable ballistic missile Agni 5. Now these are very important types of news that you usually get in the general knowledge and current affairs section. So this Agni 5 can strike targets at ranges up to 5,000 kilometers, marking a significant boost to the country's strategic deterrence. The test firing of the missile from the APJ Abdul Kalam Island of Odisha came amid India's lingering border row with China. So that is also an important factor to understand, that currently we have this border row with China going on, and at the same time that we have test fired this a nuclear capable ballistic missile. The Agni-5 project is aimed at boosting India's nuclear deterrence against China, which is known to have missiles like Dongfeng 41 having ranges between 12,000 to 15,000 kilometers. Agni-5 can bring almost the entire Asia, including the northeast part of China, as well as some regions in Europe under its striking range. The Agni-1 to 4 missiles have ranges from 700 kilometers to 3,500 kilometers, and they've already been deployed. Now this one, Agni-5, has the range of 5,000 kilometers. So remember the name Agni-5, remember the range 5,000 kilometers, remember the type, it's a nuclear capable ballistic missile. 9 products from across the country get GI tag. Kerala tops the table. We talked about Telangana in one of the previous videos. Let's see what other products have got the geographical indication tag. The Union government has granted the geographical indication tag to 9 products from across the country, including Gamosa of Assam, Alibag White Union from Maharashtra, Ladakh Raste Carbo Apricot, and Attapadi Atukombu Avara, among others. Of the 9 GI tags given, 5 were for products from Kerala. So 9 products have got the GI tag across country and 5 are from Kerala. With this, the total number of registered GI products in India stands at 432. The GI tag for Gamosa of Assam was granted to the Directorate of Handloom and Textiles, Guwahati. What is it? It is a traditional textile having a great significance for the people of Assam. The Alibag white onion is a traditional variety of white onion in Alibag, the seal of Raigad district in Maharashtra, was also given a tag. The Attapadi Thuvara is an important traditional crop of the Attapadi tribal area in Palakkad district, Kerala. It is a woody shrub generally grown as an annual crop. And Kanthalur, Vattavada, Veluthuli, it's a garlic, was also among the products which backed the tag, the GI tag, the geographical indication tag. The major areas of cultivation are Kanthalur and Vattavada panchayats. Kondugalur Puttuvelari, Kondugalur snap melon, cultivated for its fully matured fruit, which is used for making juice, was also granted a tag. And the Attapadi Atukombu Avara, cultivated by tribal farmers, and Unnatukara Elu, which is one of the ancient and traditional annual oilseed crops cultivated in Unnatukara region of Kerala, have also been given tags. I mean, of course, you are not expected to remember all the names exactly, but at least have some idea that how many, like there are total 432 products in India that have the GI tag. Kerala has 5 among the 9 that have been recently given the GI tag. What is GI first of all? So all these basic awareness, basic understanding you should have regarding this type of intellectual property rights, intellectual property laws that you are required to know. So very quickly, just summarizing, we talked about the public servants that can be found guilty of graft or circumstantial proof, the Supreme Court judgment. High Court has reserved its judgment on Agnipath scheme. The Supreme Court will hear against the electoral bonds in the next month. There was a talk about replacing the existing collegial system with any other system, and even talking about NJAC, the National Judicial Appointment Commission. We talked about Uniform Civil Code, that the states can enact laws on Uniform Civil Code. Kerala University Laws Amendment Bills is also very much in news. There is a scope of some controversy between India and China at the Tri-Junction. Agni-5 is a nuclear capable ballistic missile that has been tested. It has a range of 5,000 kilometers, and 9 products from across country have got GI tag. These were some of the important news of 16th December. See you in the next video with next set of news that are relevant, that are important for your preparation. Thank you so much.